Confirmation Week 3, or Confirmation Week 20. I'm excited that you're here. I'm excited to get into our content this week. And as the news and the world keeps moving, it seems to get weirder and weirder as we keep moving along. We are now in shelter in place, and so I was able to get this video quickly in before that was all happening. And also, we still will have church services because we're part of the exemption that the state and the governor has put forth. So we'll still have church services, we'll still have confirmation virtually, so stay tuned. I know the next week we're getting into Holy Week, and we'll talk about that a little bit at the end of what we're going to be doing for that and how we'll continue to move forward. But before we get into the meat and potatoes for this week, we have to look through our Bible verses that we've been working on, the By Heart series. So the first week we had from Linnea from Matthew chapter 6, verse 21, "For where your treasure is, there your heart will be also." And the remembering part within the sanctuary was the cross, right in the front and center of our church. Week 2, Pastor Corey had us, "For surely I know the plans I have for you, says the Lord, plans for your welfare and not for harm, to give you a future with hope." Jeremiah 29:11. And his memory section within the sanctuary was the Paschal or baptism candle. Week 3, Linnea brought us, "Your word is a lamp unto my feet and a light unto my path," Psalm 119 verse 105. And her remembrance within the sanctuary was the aisle candles. Week 4, Pastor Corey had from Romans chapter 8, 35a, "Who will separate us from the love of Christ?" and had the memory within the sanctuary of the resurrection window. Last week we had, "The steadfast love of the Lord never ceases. His mercies never come to an end. They are new every morning." Lamentations chapter 3 verses 22 through 23a, and had the memory of the back window where the door used to be to go out to the church. And if you want to finish that verse, it's actually, I think, really nice and a great way to end that verse, which ends with, "Great is your faithfulness," which I think that's great to remember. And Pastor Corey just gave in his Wednesday night sermon this week's, and I feel it's perfect as we're getting into this shelter in place. And it comes from Matthew chapter 6, also verse 34. "So don't worry about tomorrow, for tomorrow will bring worries of its own. Today's trouble is enough for today." Which, if you have been going through the last couple weeks, and if you are not experiencing it as much personally, talk to your parents. I know for me, there's been so many things that we have planned and tried working on here at church the last couple weeks that have had to be scrapped, sometimes hours later, sometimes a day later, because of additional news coming out and forces beyond our control changing things. And I think it's a great verse to be thinking about today as we're going through this, that life is hard enough going day to day at times. And right now I think is a perfect example of that. And so that means that we have to be willing and confident and able just to continue to move forward and take it day by day and be okay with that. And that often means that we need to slow down and just focus on what's going on today. And the last 3 weeks in confirmation, we looked at the expectations for yourself, the expectations that your parents have for you, and this week we're going to look at what are the expectations that God has for you. And a lot of that gets into truth and honesty. And I think it's when you think about these words and thinking about telling the truth and being honest with people, it's sometimes easier said than done. I know it's one of the things that when I came back from working at the youth worker convention earlier in February, I talked about with you guys that I felt that I hadn't been raw enough with you. I hadn't been honest enough with you. And that's one of the things that I have been personally working on with you is just trying to be more open, trying to show you that I'm trying to figure this stuff out myself too, that I don't have it all figured out. And I think right now, as we're in this world that's changing at times, it feels by the minute, we all are having to be honest that we don't know what's coming next. So don't feel afraid, don't feel scared in that things are changing so quickly, because it's changing for all of us. And we all don't know quite what we're doing. None of us have gone through a pandemic like this before. So it's okay, and take comfort in that God is in control. God has gone through something like this before, and He's going to continue to guide and steer us through this. So as we get into this week, I think another part of it that you can think about underneath this that isn't as much brought up in the lesson itself, but what are the expectations and goals that God has for you, and thinking about and playing around with those ideas. Truth and honesty are going to be major parts of that, but they're also going to be goals and aspirations on what you want to accomplish. And honestly, I think it's something that your parents would love to probably hear and discuss and to talk with you on. And honestly, I would love to hear that, so I can encourage you and help you. And if I hear of things that might help you in the journey on where you're wanting to go, that's part of what I would love to help you in. That's one of the things that I really enjoy hearing from you guys, is what your goals and aspirations are. So the text this week that we'll have is coming out of Acts chapter 5, verses 1 through 11. I wouldn't say this is the most familiar text on the face of the planet, but I think it's a really interesting text. And parents, if you're not as familiar with this and have any questions, again, feel free to shoot me an email, feel free to shoot me a text, give me a call. I'd love to talk through it with you. It's a little bit of a weird text if you haven't gone through it before, but it really exemplifies how much God is wanting truth and honesty in our lives. And in the world in which we're in, I think we need to all be truthful and honest that we don't know what's coming next. We don't know what's fully coming, and that's okay. We just have to roll with the punches. So, talking about the upcoming weeks, the next week after this is Holy Week. At church, we will still be having our Holy Week services online. And what I'm planning on doing is, there won't be confirmation per se, but I'll probably record kind of a confirmation Holy Week reflection. Just something to think about, and I'm going to ponder that this week and figure out something, just to, probably a 5-minute thing, just kind of to talk about and to think about with Holy Week and just to reflect on. The week after that, I had scheduled something a little bit bigger, and I'm still figuring out how we're going to do that, because I was expecting to make like resurrection dioramas, and I haven't fully figured out how we're going to do that with all being apart. But there's a couple ideas that I have that I'll propose, but I'll tell you the after Easter, so that Wednesday after Easter should be a little bit more fun, and I'm hoping that it's a little bit more engaging, not only for you, but for the people around you, if we're still in quarantine at that point. So I hope that you're having a great time spending time with family. I know this is hard. I know it's really hard for me. Reach out and connect with me. I'd love to hear from you guys, and being able to connect and talk, it really brightens my day a lot. The pictures that I've gotten from the group selfies from last week of the family really brought a smile to my face, and it's just been amazing to see that from our little small community. So I'd encourage you to keep doing that, and I'm really excited about the selfie that you'll have this week for the lesson. I really want to see what that is, and I look forward to connecting with you as we get through this. It's okay. Life's a little crazy right now, and it's crazy for all of us, but know that God blesses and continues to be with us in these times. And remember that I'm still here for you. I still care about all of you, and I hope to hear from all of you soon. I'll talk to you later. See you next week.